Hi, welcome to Developing a Culture of Care, Supervision 101 for Behavior Analysts. Our speaker today is Dr. Ellie Kazemi. She's founded the MS and ABA program at the California State University, Northridge, and is a tenure-track professor in the Department of Psychology. Her efforts in developing a structured, competency-based supervision model for emerging behavior analysts has gained tremendous attention from supervisors across the globe and at various universities. She is frequently invited to present at workshops, tutorials, and provide keynotes on the topics of training, feedback, and supervision. And she's also the lead author of the new book from Springer Publishing Company, Developing a Culture of Care, Supervision 101 for Behavior Analysts. We're very lucky to have her today to speak on this topic. Welcome, Ellie.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. I want to thank everyone who is registered and those of you who've joined us. I'm very excited to get a chance to talk with you via this webinar. I know we have a Q&A, so I'm looking forward to hearing some of your questions, and hopefully I can answer them. I'm going to set my time here to be sure to give you plenty of time for Q&A. I am beginning my slides with actually pictures of my students, because I think that so much of what I'm about to talk about was influenced by the students I've had over the generations at CSUN. And I'd like to take us back a little bit, because, you know, without Jerry Shook's efforts and the formation of the BACB, I don't think any of us would be here. And since the formation of the BACB, we can see this tremendous growth in the number of behavior analysts. In about 2010, we were somewhere about 6,000 of us. And you can see the tremendous growth over the years, such that we were at about 29,000 in 2017. And the latest numbers we looked up were at 32,000 board certified behavior analysts. And you would think as we're growing that maybe we're saturating and that the demand for behavior analysts will begin to level out. That's actually not the case. If you look at the job postings opening for behavior analysts, there is this parallel growth. And there seems to be many more jobs, which is great. We know when we're preparing students that there will be many jobs for them. And that there's going to be room for a lot of growth in behavior analysis. In fact, we can see if we looked across certificates, this includes our BCABAs and the new credentialed RBT, you can see that over the years we've just continued to grow across the globe. What I like about this map is some of the areas that you don't see anyone in are not habitable. So the growth has been pretty steady, at 51,000 in 2016, and we're close to about 80,000 in 2018. As the number of board certified behavior analysts has grown, we can also see another growth, this growth in the number of universities that are offering coursework. I know at CSUN that there was no behavior analysis coursework whatsoever when I joined the faculty. But now we have both undergraduate coursework as well as a master's degree program. And we can see the growth since the development of the BACB of BCBA coursework at different universities. These are the number of universities that are providing these classes across the globe, which is fantastic. At this point, I think I'm going to pause for a moment and pose a question that we have made for you. And we're wondering if with coursework, and if you're at a university, if you currently have fieldwork and supervision as a part of your program. This was a tremendous challenge for us at CSUN, and I think that in-housing supervision and overlooking supervision alongside providing the coursework was what gave us the type of experience to be able to provide some of the material we have. Great, excellent. Okay, so I can see 87% of you actually have coursework and Praxica material. Perfect, okay. Well, as many of you know, we are now actually working with ABAI, BACB is, and you can see that there are already many programs that have been accredited by ABAI. although the organization is now also overseeing some of the coursework and approved coursework that's provided through the BACB. So you can see about 10 programs have been accredited in doctoral programs, 20 in the master's degree programs, and about 2 bachelor's degree programs. And I think that the organization is going to continue to grow and look to accredit more universities, part of which is practical coursework as well. You know, if you're feeling a little bit ambivalent, I was when I saw the growth in behavior analysis. At the very beginning, it almost seemed like we were busting at the seams. And that can be pretty scary if you just look at the rapid growth, particularly because we are trying to meet a demand. And that can really rush things for many of us. But one thing that I've really begun to notice is that we have one common goal in behavior analysis, and that's to save the world with behavior analysis. There's lots of things we can offer, and currently we've been offering a lot of those in one tail of the distribution with autism services. There's been tremendous growth in other areas most recently, and I think that the need for behavior analysts is growing, but behavior analysts are also growing in different areas that they can provide services and help. With this in mind, I think that we have the potential to continue to grow, and I'm excited about this growth, but it means that we need to gain some quality control to be sure the individuals coming out are people that we're proud of. I think that we have another question for you at this point, and that is to find out if you are looking to develop coursework to gain quality control over practica. Okay, very nice, fantastic. I think you can all see the poll results. That's 91% of you said yes. That's excellent. I would say, I hope you agree with me that the answer to the quality control is going to be our supervisors. Supervisors are the heroes of our profession. They are the individuals who serve as gatekeepers and assure that the people who enter our field are people that can represent us well and people we would be proud to call colleagues, which means that so much of their time is spent in increasing the competencies of the individuals that then become their supervisees or the people who are their interns. And to develop, you know, the next generation of behavior analysts who want to save the world with behavior analysis, it means that we have to help them gain their wings. Well, what are these wings has been a big part of our question at CSUN, and I think that the changes in the task list that the BACB shows our profession as a whole has been trying to figure out, what do we need in a professional behavior analyst? Who do they have to become? And I think we're beginning to realize that there are many pieces to this puzzle. What's core and obvious are that they need foundational skills in behavior analysis and application skills in doing assessments and interventions. And then there is the legalities and the ethics of the job, making sure people are safe, as well as being a professional, having good communication skills and being able to take care of themselves so that they appear among the multidisciplinary teams with care. And most recently, we're beginning to really notice the need for leadership skills as well as interpersonal skills and being able to resolve conflicts and actively listen, especially when they're on multidisciplinary teams and working with our families. There's a lot of things that they need to learn, and they can do this with the help of a supervisor. I have some general ideas about how we can do this well together as we grow a culture of care. And I will outline some of these fairly quickly. We mentioned them in the book. And the first is to set the expectations for supervision. Here, I think in the book that I wrote with Brian Rice and Peter Adzian, these were the individuals who were helping us develop this coursework at CSUN and have done tremendous work in this area. And it's been an honor to work with them to write this book. We realized that we really need to give supervisees an idea about what supervision is. We all walk into supervision with different ideas. And so we've outlined an entire section for them to think about supervision. How can they prepare for it? Who is a supervisor? What does it mean to be supervised? What does fieldwork look like? And I think that it's important that we begin by setting a clear expectation for supervision. Now, part of that is to set expectations for feedback up front. Supervisees sometimes think that feedback just comes in an office it's really important to talk with them about what feedback looks like, and then also to provide them with some guidance as to how to grow from feedback. There are some books out there that I think are very helpful, and I've used them myself, because it's easier to kind of make them read about this outside of us as supervisors. In our supervision book, we spent a good amount of time talking about how to gain from feedback, as well as how to give feedback to others, to peers, as well as supervisors. I think that feedback is really the core of supervision. With that, we need to also use performance checklists. This is really important to us in behavior analysis. Obviously, these provide us with task lists, but creating performance checklists and having performance checklists for all the things we need for our emerging behavior analysts is daunting. And for these reasons, we've actually included as many performance checklists as we can. They're editable. They're all placed in Chapter 9 of our book. And what we've done is taken the general guidelines BCBA has provided in the 5th edition task list and come up with 10 core competencies for what do we expect from an emerging behavior analyst. We've aligned these to the BCBA task list and then provided benchmarks, which I think we need to provide in good supervision, as to when a person has improved, when are they a beginner versus at intermediary types of skills, and then when have they advanced. And we've done this for each of the competencies in the book, but I think this is important in supervision, even if someone's not using the book. And to then, for the supervisee to be able to assess their own baseline skills, to know what they need to come in with, and what are some of the things that they can do in individual settings, gain from their supervisor in an individual setting, versus what are some of the things that they can do in a group setting. I think that, some people ask me about the book and why it's written to the supervisee, and I have to share this is super important to me personally, and that is to empower the supervisee in the relationship. It is a collaboration between the supervisor and the supervisee. It's that synergistic effect that results in the best outcome, I think. And it's important for me that a supervisee take charge of their supervision, feels responsible for the type of supervision they get from me, push me. And that's really why we wrote the book to the supervisees. We've provided them with guidelines, and we've asked them to come to the supervisor with ideas. And I think that that's super important in general. And then, of course, we give them ample feedback on all of the things that they're doing with us. I think part of feedback is for us to learn to listen to our supervisees. In fact, I think the source I'm sharing is a great example of how we're listening to our supervisees. They're much more open to hearing feedback and feel we give better feedback. And then I also think it's important that we realize that supervisors were setting models. Many of us were supervised by people that may not have given us the best models. We might have some models of what not to do, but we can become better role models of how supervision should occur in the future. And that includes, taking care of ourselves and teaching our supervisees to take care of themselves. In fact, in the book, we spend some time talking about self-care skills and professional skills. And I've been hearing a lot of great feedback about our self-care checklists, which I think a supervisor could really model the use of. I've recently picked up hot yoga, and I can see my supervisors are proud of me. And then I have this 4th tip, which is to give your supervisees a fine reputation to live up to. We need them to become the best emerging behavior analysts. We need them to become the best behavior analysts because we need effective care out there. And that means that we need to be willing to have some of those tough conversations and give them feedback about some things that may not be easy to give them feedback about. And then, of course, last but not least, we need to evaluate the effects of our supervision. This is one of my favorite parts of the book, which is actually a brief part of the book, but we at CSUN adopted an e-portfolio model. I learned this from various universities, and there's lots of good research about why portfolios are a good way to go. And so we recommend that the supervisee pull together all of the information and all of the things that they've done in supervision and create a portfolio from it. I think that helps the supervisees see what they've gained over time in addition to the competency checklists. And it provides the supervisor with an outcome to look at and oversee and kind of review their own effect. What have they been able to do? Evaluating our own supervision is a big part of providing a good supervision. I share this because many people ask me why the butterfly, and it's really because we need to multiply ourselves as behavior analysts. And that multiplication is not easy. We have to have a lot of quality control. But I really think that if we are able to accomplish that, we're going to be able to save the world with behavior analysis the way we care. I am going to now shut up and open for questions.
If you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A.
You can add, yes, you can add all questions to the Q&A or through the chat, and we can answer them now. So we have a question from Sal Ruiz. His question is there an online supervision component to this book?
Right, so what we have done is development of performance checklists, I think is very daunting for many of us. We have posted all of our performance checklists, including the benchmarks, as well as the competency checklists. So a supervisee can identify where they're at in their supervision. All of those are online and editable so that you can modify them to meet your needs.
Great. I'm looking for any other questions. We have another question from Andressa, and the question is, on the same note, what are your tips for online or remote supervision?
That is an excellent question. Most recently, I actually worked with one of my graduates, Denise Rios. She just finished her PhD at Western Michigan, and we were looking at the effects of telemedicine or telehealth in supervision, which is quite challenging because you have to create ways to be able to get your eyes on the supervisee, particularly to see them in professional settings and in teamwork settings, because we're building individuals who are able to lead in those types of settings. I think my recommendations would remain the same, except that I would think the communication necessary between the supervisor and supervisee is even denser. There's got to be a lot more communication about how can you as a supervisor get your eyes on them. But I think that this is an area that we need to do a lot more research in. I don't think we know enough.
And it's a more general question that we got a couple times is, would we be able to have a copy of the PowerPoint after the presentation? Will those be made available?
So I think that this webinar is being made available, correct, Andrew? So
That's
I think
right.
as a whole, the webinar is going to be available. And I will make sure to provide a set of notes alongside that.
Great. And we will actually send a follow-up email with the video after the presentation, probably in another 24 hours or so. You should receive that. I think we're good. Oh, actually, sorry, we have one more question, Ellie. There was a follow-up question on Sal's last question, and that's, what about checklists for indirect activities? I like that supervisees can apply what they learn in the coursework, but what about things that are more typical of a BCBA or a BCABA?
I think I'm going to repeat your question to make sure I'm understanding you. I think what you're asking about is some of the other types of skills, including interviewing or presenting material at leadership team meetings. Is that what you mean, the checklists for activities other than what they're learning in the coursework? Is that correct?
So Sal, I'll wait for your response on that.
So I'll go ahead and provide a general answer to that based on what my understanding of the question is. We have checklists for things such as looking over their functional behavior assessment reports and being able to identify if they have the key components. including things that are very important like flow and being able to have good justifications for some of the things that you recommend. But in addition to that, we've also provided checklists about how to interview caregivers, how to provide oral presentations. So we've gone across the spectrum with regards to all of those different areas that I spoke of that we think are important for professional behavior analysts.
And Ellie, just he mentioned he agreed with what you said, but he just wanted to. He also mentioned developing programs, plans, and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. You mean the development of curriculum or program plans? So we have material on acquisition programs. We have things on including preference assessments, teaching language, social skills. We also have things on behavior management. But again, these are all the different areas that behavior analysts engage in. So we have some of our performance checklists for those, but they're not specific for clients. They're much more general for the types of things that a board certified behavior analyst needs to engage in to do those well.
Andrew, that's it for questions, I believe.
So there's one last question.
Okay.
Just a follow up to the previous question. What about graph construction assessments?
That's an excellent question, and it's one of my favorites. Yes, we do have actually checklists on what should be in the graph and how can you provide and interpret that. We do have that one as well, and I'm excited about that.
So that's all we have, Ellie, but thank you.
Thanks, Ellie. Again, this is Rhonda Dearborn. I'm the editor, I should have mentioned that earlier, for behavioral sciences here at Springer Publishing Company. And I misspoke when I said the name of Ellie's book, which she's featured throughout the presentation. But again, I just want to make it clear, the name of her book is called Fieldwork and Supervision for Behavior Analysts, a Handbook. And again, we want to thank Ellie so much for the time and effort she put into today's presentation. And we want to thank all of you for spending some time with us today as well.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you.